Hello, I'm Gaby Mendes.
And I'm Felix Kabutey Jr. You are now listening to the Talk Twenties podcast.
This podcast is your ultimate guide to adult life, where we discuss, with the help of our amazing guests, all the things that we were never taught in school.
Adult life can be really isolating as everyone's got their own thing going on. But remember, you're never alone. There are over 7 million of us 20-somethings all trying to figure it out. Let's unpack a new topic in today's episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Talk Twenties podcast. Please make sure you hit that subscribe and follow button so you never miss an episode of us in the studio. Today, we're joined by the wonderful Olivia Hanlon, who is the founder of Girls in Marketing.
I'm really excited to have Olivia in the studio today because if you've been listening to podcasts for a long time now, you may remember that we recorded an episode way back in July 2020. Now, just to set the scene, this was like straight after the first lockdown was lifting, and it was just about when you were allowed to meet like one person like in a time. So we actually recorded with like 2 microphones in Olivia's flat at the time. Very humble beginnings. And from there, like that was obviously the first time I'd met Olivia, and it's amazing to have her back in the studio today. But from there, we formed like a really amazing friendship. And so I'm so excited to get her on the new series of Talk 20. So Olivia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's so good to be back.
It's so good to be back. Like I think yours was one of the first episodes I ever did in person. And we literally just had 2 mics across the table. And we talked at that moment in time about building a career in marketing, because that was like what your business is all about. So Girls in Marketing, for those people that don't know it, tell us a little bit more about what it is.
So Girls in Marketing, we are an e-learning platform, and we're basically on a mission to bridge the digital skills gap and equalise gender seniority in marketing. Essentially, just make friends as marketers and just do really cool things. You know, we have events, we have our membership, we do lots of like great things, but we're all kind of for women, by women, and specifically in marketing. I had kind of built up a career in marketing, and I wanted to kind of find like new friends and stuff. So I just thought, you know what, like I'll build a community myself, similar to kind of what you did with Talk 20s, in a way that like you felt like lost, but it was kind of in a different way from like a marketing career perspective. Started that, and it's been a crazy journey. But I do remember like recording the episodes in my flat, and it was just us across the breakfast bar, just like chatting. And I think we'd met up like once before then, and we were just chatting about everything, but it was really nice. And I think it's so crazy that it was long ago, but it wasn't even that long ago, really. It was kind of like, you know, 2.5 years, that sort of, it wasn't that long, but it feels so long ago.
It feels like forever ago, not just because like so much has happened, like COVID, politics and all that kind of stuff, like, but also that like our businesses have like kind of weirdly grown up together in a bit of a weird, you know, way. Like we've definitely grown up. Obviously, lots of amazing stuff has happened with Girls in Marketing, which we'll get into in the podcast. But I think it's been really nice because essentially we've kind of had like each other's back as like friends as well. So on this roller coaster of building a business in your 20s, no one really teaches you this stuff. So it's really nice to have someone who's going, oh yeah, I've been through that, or I'm doing this at this moment in time, and share stories about that. And hopefully this episode will be us just doing that with a microphone, really. Yeah. So hopefully we can help a lot of people who might be thinking about starting their own business.
Yeah. I'm up for that.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, already a key theme there is friendships. Obviously, the friendship that you guys share. And also, Olivia, you mentioned about you wanted to just start something with your friends. And I feel like at the foundations of any great relationship, business partnership, anything at all, if there's a friendship, it's got good foundations. It's got good foundations. And you know me, Gaby, I love a full circle moment. Yeah. So even being able to share this moment, like you guys can't feel the vibe that I'm feeling right now, but it's actually amazing to hear how you both individually have grown your businesses, but together, like you've literally grown up together, which is amazing to see. Like I said, a really nice full circle moment. But of course, Olivia, I'd love to hear more about the Girls in Marketing and where you are now with the business.
Yeah, so where we are now, where aren't we now? I feel like it's such a journey. And for me, I mean, I never set out to do anything that was kind of like groundbreaking. What we're doing, it's not like anything that people haven't done before. It's very much just like doing it in our own way. At the moment, we are a team of 5, which is crazy, full-time, 5 people. I didn't ever think that in my 20s I'd be able to say I hire 5 people, 2 of which are older than me, which is something that was really strange. Like I remember taking on one of the girls who is like 29. So she is like kind of later 20s. And that was really scary for me as a young, like 4-year-old, do you know what I mean? So, and I think that as a 20-something, that's something that you genuinely don't even ever think about, is what happens when I'm building a business if it gets to the point that I have to hire someone that's older than me. But luckily, the kind of, again, friendships, that's kind of the foundations of everything that we do. I built friendships with the people before they were kind of full-time. So it was never kind of awkward, but that's something that I've had to do that is possibly something that's a bit unique to anything else. But yeah, we're a full-time team of 5. We have an office in Liverpool, which is really cool. And yeah, we've got lots of amazing plans. We do events for our members and publicly as well. So just got a lot of stuff going on, really. But for me, it's about sustainable growth. We want to kind of continue growing, but at a sustainable rate, rather than, you know, I don't necessarily want to hire 50 people in the next year or 2 years. Obviously, that's some people's goal, but that was never the kind of goal with me, to be honest. It's more just about how can we build something that makes impact on people's lives, but equally kind of is a business and works as a business and everything like that as well.
Amazing.
Employing 5 people, like you've come like such a long way since we chatted back in July 2020. And I think what anyone is listening to right now is like, okay, so how did this journey start out? How, like, where did you come up with this idea of you just said you really wanted to make friends in marketing? There's, well, a lot of people can have an idea like that, but then it's one thing to have the idea and it's another whole thing to kind of build a fully fledged business out of that. So it'd be really great to take it back to the beginning and then chat about that journey and like the highs and lows and like what other people who are maybe hoping to do the same could learn a little bit about.
So it started originally for me when I was working full time, and I was like, you know what, I want to make some friends, I want to teach some people. I'd freelanced before, I was freelancing whilst I was working full time, and I just kind of thought to myself, you know what, like I want to make friends and I want to do something. And the point wasn't a business. Like it genuinely was just to do something that I loved to do and to meet more people in, you know, my local city who were marketers, kind of working in that industry. So set up an Instagram page, set up a website, started like just kind of posting, doing some stuff. And then all of a sudden it just started gaining traction. And I think sometimes in life there's things that happen and you've just got to ride the wave. My biggest thing that I ever do in life is just go with it. Just like if it happens, it happens, and you know everything happens for a reason. So what happened was I kind of started gaining traction and I was like, you know what, I really enjoy doing this. I can monetize this, I can make this a business. And I've always been quite kind of entrepreneurial anyway. I'm not a massive fan of the entrepreneur as a phrase, especially because I've only ever had one business. But for me, it was more, okay, this is something really cool. People really like it. I'm spending so much time on it. I need to make some money from it in some way. Yeah. So I just started doing webinars that I would charge. At the beginning, it was like £2.50, £5. And I just kind of did it for hundreds of people because this was the height of lockdown. So I started Girls in Marketing in 2019, but then it only really started taking off in kind of the beginning of 2020 and then into kind of lockdown and everything like that. So decided to put on some webinars and charge people for it. And I was like, oh, people will pay for this education. People are interested in this. People want to hear from me and from Girls in Marketing. Again, it was quite faceless at the beginning. So it wasn't Olivia Hanlon from Girls in Marketing. It was just Girls in Marketing. It was only me, but I just wanted to create a safe space for more people. So yeah, did that. And then from there, I kind of said, okay, I sat down, and this is probably about when we met actually. And I was like, I don't know where to take this. You know, it's very much like it's going really well and I'm really enjoying it, making some money, but not enough for it to be a fully fledged business. And I thought, right, this is a decision now. I need to either really put some thought into how I can monetize it and grow it in a sustainable way, or I just continue with my full-time job and just kind of like, you know, do it as a side thing. And I was happy doing that, but also I was like, sometimes you just got to take risks in life. I am a calculated risk taker as a person. So yeah, decided to do that, quit my full-time job, go and just kind of freelance for a while. I freelanced whilst doing Girls in Marketing because it wasn't making enough money. And then, yeah, kind of continued on from there. And the journey has been crazy. I decided to kind of set up our membership because that was a better way to create an exclusive kind of, well, an exclusive space for marketers rather than just having hundreds or thousands of followers online. We were like, right, let's create a really exclusive space for these people to get to know them and meet them a little bit more. And then, yeah, we've just been kind of growing that. And now we work with like some amazing businesses who want to access our community, massive brands that I would never have thought that we would be able to work with in a million years. And we also work with businesses, their employees. We kind of help leadership teams, like all stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely been one of those things that has evolved and flourished as I've gone. It's not been, I didn't have anything figured out when I was kind of just starting out. It was very much like a journey. And obviously having you, Gaby, by my side, cute little moment, has really helped. But it has because although we're building different things, it's still someone to kind of like bounce off, to chat to, you know, ideas. And there's been times when we've chatted about things and we've went, oh, actually, maybe that would work better, or, you know, maybe that. And we've both been through different things and also similar things in different ways. And I think having someone like yourself, and my partner is also entrepreneurial as well, and he's really helped me, and hopefully I can kind of provide that for him one day as well. But yeah, little off topic, but I genuinely think that building what I've built, it's not come easy at all, but it's also not been something, because people talk about sitting down and writing a business plan, and genuinely, if people are listening to this episode, they might have had advice from, you know, business consultants or people, and they've said, go away, write a business plan, and then you've got a business. Okay, that works for some people, but for me, and I know for you, Gaby, that definitely isn't how it went at all.
No. And like, even though I have at one stage been asked to do that, like, it's been ripped up. Like, not as in like, that'll never happen again. It just hasn't gone like that. Like, you can only predict so much. And I think it's always like, being prepared, like you're not going to write a business plan and then see it the whole way through. Like that business plan is ever evolving. Like you should probably be changing it monthly based on what's going on in the world, you know, what your audience are responding to, you know, how, you know, what your clients are really wanting from you and stuff like that. And I think, I think maybe that's a really traditional way of looking at business. But I think one of the things that you know, both Talk 20s and Girls in Marketing do is like, we really, I think the fact that we're small and we're, you know, there's not so many people, there's not loads of levels of, you know, seniority or hierarchy. It means we can move with the times. It means we can move fast. We can make a decision that can change the business tomorrow. Whereas if you're in a bigger organization or you work within a company, I'm sure many people listening who work in organizations like this, and it was the same in my old job. If you had an idea, you had to wait till your meeting for the next week, and then it would be taken to the manager. Oh, we just have to check this with so-and-so. And then you get the okay to do it. And then you go away and do the work, and then that would have to get signed off. And it'd be 4 weeks before you even saw your idea come to fruition. Whereas like with us, they'd be like, oh, we want to record this TikTok. Yeah, let's do it now. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's not all about TikTok and social media, but it is about being nimble, I think, and being able to adapt. And that is a really good thing in business right now, I think.
Yeah, I definitely feel like you've got to have a business plan. Don't get me wrong, I'm not sat here now with no business plan. But at the very beginning, it was more just like, I've got this really cool idea, I want to make it a business. And that's a lot of the time how people start. It's like, I've got a bit of an audience, or I'm doing something cool, and it's like, okay, what can I do with it? How can I monetize it? How can I grow it? And then over time, I mean, I was probably like, you know, at least a year in before I sat down and properly wrote a business plan. And that might seem crazy, but that was because I was never out to make a business really, but then it just kind of turned into one.
Do you feel like in a situation now where it's like, all of a sudden you've got a business and you're like, I don't know how I got here? Because I'm having this moment, like in this, especially this month, just taking on Georgia, obviously, like first, like I'm now an employer, which I never was before. It was just me like solo. And I'm all of a sudden, I'm like, where did all of that come from? Like, it's just been like a real like difficult journey, like so many ups and downs, but then it's kind of, I'm glad I held on in the difficult times because I wouldn't be where I am right now, but I feel like it's crept up on me by taking me by surprise.
No, it is always strange when I think I actually pay people's salaries at the end of the month. Like it's quite scary because also I like to kind of sometimes go and do things like, as you said, be that nimble kind of person that's doing all these different things. But actually now that we've got 5 people in a team, it's about structure. It's about how do we actually create a bit of a hierarchy, not so much as one that's like got loopholes and everything that, but more like, okay, back in 2020, if I had an idea to do something, I'd go away, I'd do it. A few weeks later, it'd be done, or a few days later. Whereas now, it's like, I've got to sit down with our head of marketing. I've got to chat about it. How are we going to launch this campaign? I've got to sit down with our head of product, talk about how this is going to work. And it's totally different, but it's nice. I think what is really nice for me, actually, is not having the burden of having to do everything. That was something that I loved. I loved being able to do all little bits of things. But as we were growing and as I was trying to kind of grow something that is scalable and we can kind of grow with impact, it was hard to do it every day and kind of wake up and one day you're designing something, one day you're creating a marketing campaign, one day you're creating a resource, the other day you're doing all these different things, and that's okay. But realistically, now where we are, it's so much better because I've got that element of delegation. I'm able to chat to the team. Also, they're amazing people and they've always got the most amazing ideas, genuinely. So I wouldn't have come up with half of the ideas that we've done with Girls in Marketing without them. And sometimes I sit down and I'm like, I've got this really great idea, and someone goes, no, we are not doing that. We don't have the time to do that. Or, we'll maybe do it next year. Sit me back down next year and we'll do it then. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, it was worth a try. And I think it's that element of sometimes, and I don't surround myself with typical, in quotations, yes men. I'm very much more about no. Like, actually tell me no. If you don't think this is going to work, tell me that it's not going to work. Or it might work, but right now isn't the time. We've got this project on and this on, and actually, that might work in a few months or next year, but we've got a plan. That's it. And I've never been used to doing that before. It was much more about, just do things and try things. Whereas now you've got to actually plan.
So amazing to hear about that growth. And it's like you said, having that plan, and that plan is ever changing. I do think that whether you have a business plan on paper or in your mind, an ever changing business plan is a sign of a growing business. And it sounds like Girls in Marketing has gone through crazy growth in such a small period of time. What would be your advice for other 20-somethings wanting to grow a business and in turn build a team around them?
I think just surround yourself with people who you really vibe with, but also have like a really good work ethic and who are loyal. I value loyalty so much, and I value that commitment element as well, because ultimately, I mean, one of the girls in the team, Martha, she's been with Girls in Marketing. She firstly started as a volunteer in 2020, and then she was freelance for a little bit while she was at university, and then she actually is now full-time. She moved from Cambridge to Liverpool to literally be here and help. And actually, she's been through more or less everything I've been through with the business of Girls in Marketing. Obviously, she wasn't there to found it in 2019, but she's been through quite a lot with me, and just having her there to be able to like bounce ideas off of, and just really, she knows, like, because she's been there for so long, you say things and she's like, oh yeah, I remember when we did that, or she's been through the highs and lows. And even some of the other people on the team have been here for quite a while now as well. So for me, it's not just about what am I doing myself and what am I building myself? It's about the people that you surround yourself with as well. And equally, I mean, obviously myself and Gaby aren't on a team together, but we do kind of have that like friendship and business partnership as well. So surrounding yourself, obviously your team, but equally those external people, making sure that they are the right sort of people. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we're 2 women. We could have went, oh, you're building something similar to me. Let's go head to head, you know what I mean? But we never, because we were like, you know what? Actually, we're building similar things, obviously in our own ways and differently, but we're going to collaborate and we're going to talk about things. And that's what I love, because there's nothing worse than, especially women, it just going, oh, she's doing something I'm doing. I don't want to do that. And it's not what I'm about, but some people are. So it's just about like kind of filtering out those people if you, if you don't really vibe with them. And I know it sounds weird to build a whole business off vibes, but it genuinely isn't. It's not about the vibes at all. It is just about like building a kind of environment for yourself where you can thrive. And I thrive off other people being happy, other people kind of giving me ideas, other people like telling me no. And that's kind of what I've built. And it's just building your own environment that you can thrive in.
Hi everyone, Gaby here. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Talk Twenties podcast. This is the bit where I tell you about our headline sponsor, Zopa Bank. So this is an ad. Zopa are one of the UK's leading digital banks, and we're really excited to be working with them. Zopa are all about fair, simple, and easy to use financial products that actually work for you. It's all online in their free to use app. So head to your usual app store and search Zopa, that's ZOPA, and find out what they're all about.
It's a reflection of you really in a lot of different ways, because it's like everyone that you're bringing in is probably similar to you. Like I feel like we wouldn't get along as well if we weren't similar in a lot of different ways. But yeah, I totally agree. I think I would have been, I don't know where I would be, like genuinely would have been with the business if I didn't have like your friendship, because I think it's one of those things where I'm going, I really don't know how to get my head around this. Like, I know I'm going to speak to Liv about it, or even like we'll go out with our dogs and our partners and stuff like that. And the boys will probably roll their eyes because we're going, girls marketing this, Talk Twenties this and their stuff. But actually, like because they're heavily invested, it's nice to be able to have a friend or someone that you can relate to that maybe isn't doing the exact same thing as you, but they get it, because I think it's a bit of a roller coaster journey. If you can find someone that is doing something similar and grow with them and share your ideas, I think that's just, for me, that's been vital for the business that I've been building. I think one of the process that I have sort of been on but not quite been on, but is the process of like raising investment. So you've been on that journey across the past like 6 months, was it?
Yeah, I think it originally started at the end of 2021 is when I mid 2021 I started thinking about it, and then end of 2021 is when it kind of happened. So the actual investment process was kind of like 9 months or so, like searching and it going through and everything. And
I think for a lot of young people, I think anyone listening to this, like you're a young female and you're also in the north. Now I have to like raise that as like a point, because until you try these things, you don't actually realize how little funding goes to one, women, and two, the north, because there's like everything is in London, like for wanting to like raise investment or any of those kind of things. Going through that process and pitching, like if anyone was thinking about raising investment for their own company and they might be in a similar position, they might be in their 20s, they might be based outside of London, like what would you say to them?
So I think it's focus on what you want from it, because some people with investment, they just want the cash, like simply they just want money to like help them grow the business. But for me, it was much more about how can I build something that's sustainable and how can I have investors that actually support that mission, because there's a lot of VCs and there's a lot of kind of funds and things like that out there that I've chatted to, and they're like, okay, how are you gonna be the next like billion, $trillion company? And it's kind of like, well, that's not what I want to do. Like, don't get me wrong, it would be nice to kind of get to a really good stage, but I don't think Girls in Marketing would ever get to that point. Possibly it would. I'm not gonna, put a barrier on it, but that's not what it's about for me. So I was like, I wanted to align really nicely with investors, and that was my main priority, really. And I think anyone kind of going through that process, you've got to think, okay, what are your objectives? And if it is just money, asking yourself why, like, what are you actually going to get out of it? Okay, you might get 200, 300, 500K, a million, but what is that actually going to do? If you've got no mentorship there, you haven't got investors who believe in your mission, then how's that really going to work? And I spoke to a lot of people. I spoke to a lot of investors. I spoke, over 100 different firms and funds and angels and VCs. And I learned a lot. And actually, throughout that process, my pitch deck and the way I pitched changed so much because I learned from different people. Don't get me wrong, I didn't take every piece of advice on, but I kind of grew from that process and learned so much. And throughout that as well, I learned what I actually wanted. And for me, it wasn't about, okay, how can I get £1 million from a fund or from an investor? It was actually like, how can I get something that is like enough to help us grow and scale? Because as a business, we were fine. Like, we were profitable, we were doing really well, but it was that element of scalability where it kind of lacked. We didn't have the cash flow to kind of hire someone who was senior, who would ultimately cost more money in terms of salary. So it was like, okay, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for investment. I'm going to look for someone who believes in our mission, who really wants to put forward that sustainability, that impact piece. And I did. I was really lucky with the people that I got investment from. But actually, it wasn't even in the UK. Like, the investors are not from the UK, which is crazy because you would think what we're building in the north and how amazing it is, people would like jump at that chance. And I spoke to so many people in Liverpool who were so disappointed with the fact that nobody jumped on the chance to kind of work with us. But the reality of it was, I was just a really picky founder. I genuinely, there was people who give me like offers and I was like, no. Like, there was some people who wanted to be more hands-on, some people who wanted to be more hands-off in terms of how involved they were with the business. I had some people, this fund, who wanted to get involved 3 days a week, like literally come to Liverpool, hands-on for 3 days a week. And I was like, oh, not really for me. I like the mentorship element, but not necessarily kind of a few days a week, really too involved, because also their vision wasn't my vision, because they also were talking about boys in marketing and how do we do like grow it, past this arm of girls in marketing. Don't get me wrong, like, I'm not saying those things would never happen, but for me that wasn't the vision, and I wanted someone who believed in the mission and vision. So really, when you're raising investment, thinking, okay, what is my main priority? Do I want to work with people who are hands-on? Do I want to work with people who are hands-off? Do I just want the cash? Do I want mentorship? There's a lot that you can gain from it. And sometimes it's nice because you can get a little bit of everything, which is what I kind of got. I got a bit of mentorship. I got a community of other founders. I got the cash. I got like a few little kind of bits of stuff. So that was really great. So it's just about focusing on what you want as a founder and as a business owner.
It doesn't sound easy at all. I mean, straight away, it seems like there's quite a few barriers as a founder. For example, I would never have thought that, these barriers come up based on, firstly, your gender, where you are located in the country, and then you've had to go abroad, overseas, to get an investor, showing that even in your country, you couldn't find that right opportunity. But an interesting thing that you said that came out of there is your focus isn't on money. And I think that's really, really important as well. Like, what can serve you beyond the money? Because eventually money will run out, right? But then that's when you start thinking about divisions align, the mentorship, like you said. And I think to make it a little bit more relatable to the audience as well, because not everyone will be a business owner. Even when you're going for a job, before you accept that job, you need to make sure that job is right for you in terms of what can they offer you beyond your salary as well, right?
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah, it is true, because at the end of the day, money is a factor in everything in life. You can't get away from the fact that, if a salary is like really good and it's really high, you might want to go and move from your current company. But actually thinking to yourself, like, is it really, do those missions align? And because I don't know if it's like our generation of like 20 somethings where everyone's like, I want to do something where I feel passionate about it, or what. I definitely think that it is. It's like, okay, actually, sometimes people are willing to take less money because they want to do things that they enjoy and that they relate to. So it definitely is about relating and your mission as a person and everything like that. Yeah,
definitely. Money seems to be an enabler, but not everything. That's something I wish I knew earlier in my like corporate career, for example, or just navigating my career. Would you say there's anything that you wish you knew sooner in your business?
Yeah. I think really just having the processes to delegate to people and having just really the understanding that you can and it's okay to delegate, because I am very much like, I like to have control, not to a point where it's like micromanage or too much control, but I mean, at the end of the day, girls in marketing is like my baby. It's something that I've grown and something that I'm really proud of. And actually delegating to other people to do certain things has been a really scary process. And sometimes I've delegated, but not in the best way. And I think that understanding, okay, having those right people around you, being able to delegate properly to them and having the trust, that's a big thing. Trusting that people will do a good job. Obviously not everyone always will, but that's something that you'll figure out along the way. And for me, I've really understood that process of trust and trusting people and delegating tasks to them. And that's something that I think is one of the big kind of things that's happened within business that's made me realise, actually, I just need to put my trust into these people. They're going to do a really good job and they're going to be able to do it just as well as I would, if not even better, because they've got a different skill set. They're, you know, they've had different careers and stuff like that.
I think one of the things that our listeners will probably be thinking, like listening to this, is that like the process of starting a business, they might have an idea, but then the financial side of things of like getting it off the ground is often one of probably the biggest barriers that people say to like actually get it to the point where you're in a position to hire staff and delegate and all of that kind of stuff. For you, what's been the biggest like financial challenge for you growing the business side of things? Obviously, having been through raising investment, employing staff, like what's been the main thing that you think?
I mean, I think this is for any business owner, it's cash flow.
Yeah.
It's actually having enough cash to be able to afford to do things, to hire people. I was so skeptical at the beginning around hiring Martha, who was our first employee, like officially on the books. It was like, actually, how much money is this going to cost? Okay, because you've got salary, but as a business owner, you also have PAYE in the UK. You have all of these pension costs. You have lots of other things as well, which are great, and I'm all for it. But that's something you've got to consider is actually this, I'm offering this person a certain salary, but there's so many things on top of that salary that I have to consider within the kind of package, if you will. So I think people often find that it's like, oh, really? Oh, I'll just like hire this person and it'll be okay. But actually it's like, there's so many things around it. So you've got to make sure you have the cash flow for it. And also like working with kind of brands and businesses, again, cash flow. Some businesses, some brands are awful with invoices, they, you know, all that sort of thing. So again, just making sure that you've got the cash flow. And ultimately I didn't have that. Like when I first started Girls in Marketing, as I said before, I was freelancing. So for me, I freelanced for a year before I went on Girls in Marketing full time. So the timeline was 2020, I left May 2020, I left my full-time job. I then freelanced up until about August 2021. So actually, really, I'm only like a year to, or maybe a year and a half into like a full-time business owner journey because I couldn't afford it before. I didn't have savings. I would not recommend people to start a business without savings. But I mean, if it's something your heart wants, it is what it is, isn't it? So you just do these things. So I didn't do that. So I freelanced at the same time. So I kind of built up a clientele and I was kind of doing lots of work and stuff like that at the same time as doing Girls in Marketing. And yeah, I think a lot of it is cash flow really because businesses often don't pay invoices on time and stuff like that, but it's about just putting the processes in place, and that's something that we've done, and over time it gets so much easier. It's just about that initial, how do you actually fund these things? And what I did is I freelanced for like 3 days a week, and then 2 days it was on Girls in Marketing. At the beginning it was more like 4 days a week freelancing and 1 day on Girls in Marketing, and then as time went on I kind of cut down the freelance work and continued with Girls in Marketing to the point where it got, and it was fun and it was great. And then I had enough money to, you know, take on an employee, and then I kind of like grew it from there. And then I had another one, and it's just kind of been like, you know, a journey like that. But ultimately it's being able to manage your money. And that's a big thing. Like people in their 20s, it is hard to manage your money. It's even harder to manage money as a business because there's so many things you've got to account for. And that's something that, I mean, nobody teaches you how to do that. So it's about going out and finding it yourself and information like that online.
It's so amazing to hear about the humble beginnings of Girls in Marketing, but you've already come such a long way. Where do you see the business going, and what does future hold for Girls in Marketing?
I would love to do more events. I know that is something that aligns with both of our missions. I would love to do more things because we did our first ever in-person event in May 2022, so earlier this year. And it was so good. Like, I loved every second of it. We filled a room of like 100 women in marketing, and it was like the best thing ever. I loved it. And we had amazing feedback, and we had an amazing sponsor, Adobe Express, and they supported our mission on like the event and everything. But it was so much effort. Like, it was hard work. I know, Gaby, you organised a Talk Twenties event. It's so much work, genuinely. And sometimes you think, oh yeah, it's okay, like it'll be good. And then it's kind of like genuinely months and months in the making. So I would love to do more stuff like that. Our mission at the moment is to just kind of like continue doing what we're doing. And we've also got some other projects, but I'm not allowed to say right now. Under wraps. Sorry, guys.
We wanted an exclusive.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to an exclusive.
But yeah, just kind of like building our community, making impact, kind of providing people with like accessible resources and stuff like that. But yeah, lots of exciting things, but definitely want to do more event stuff and resources and just genuinely like helping more people, because it's just the nicest thing ever when you speak to people and they're like, oh, I got a promotion because I did this thing. And you guys like, or a girl the other day, I got on a call with her, like a one-to-one, and she had an interview and we went over like loads of interview stuff. And then she came back to me, she was like, I got the job. So it was just like so nice, and genuinely just making more of an impact. That's the main thing for me, is just whenever anyone says anything successful to you, just like, that's so cool. Like, that's crazy. Or when someone says, oh, I've learned more from what you guys do than what I did in university or than what I did in school. And it was like, that's crazy. Like, that's genuinely amazing. So it's just impact and making as much as we can.
Yeah, you can't beat that in-person interaction. And I feel like coming out of the COVID pandemic phase, like more events is something I'm really excited to see. And Girls in Marketing event, I'm expecting my invite. Even as a guy, I'm gonna be there.
You'll know from listening to the podcast, Liv, because I know you are an avid listener as well. But you'll know from listening that we always talk a lot about failure and how failure can actually be a really good thing. Is there a particular failure, maybe like since we've last recorded the podcast, that you feel like you could label it as that, but actually it was really crucial, and if you hadn't gone through that experience, you wouldn't have learned half the things that you needed to?
I know I talked a bit before about trust, but it genuinely is about trusting the right sorts of people. I have been through quite a few things, especially with kind of growing the business and everything like that. And I'm not someone who kind of doesn't trust people. Like, I'm very open and I trust people more or less like from the off. I think it's just about sometimes holding your guards up, especially when it comes to business. Don't kind of pour your heart out initially, especially when it comes to like big business people and investors. Sometimes it's good to put like a strong face on and kind of show them, actually it's about like me and this business and the mission of this, rather than the kind of like, because it's that element of being a woman in business and coming across as like, you know, you're not necessarily kind of, you're too emotional or you're too invested. And I went through that quite a lot with a lot of different business owners and stuff like that. I think it's just genuinely about how do you make sure that you've got a guard up, but enough that you do trust the right sorts of people.
And it's like dating, isn't it, really? Like, you slowly bring that guard down until people have like given you that trust in a way. Because I think like I'm quite an open book as well. So I'll be like, oh, like I'll try and like, because I like to make other people feel comfortable in the situation. So I always feel like if I've got a guard up, oh gosh, like, so I will always try and be like, oh, I can relate to that. I can relate to this. So I always feel like similar, like I'm probably a little bit like too open with situations. And sometimes that can come back and bite you on the bum, or people can get the wrong impression of you, or people think that they can maybe take you for a ride, or that you'll then help them with a million other problems that they've got in their life. And you're like, whoa, I didn't sign up for this. So I agree with that, actually. I think that's a really good one, is like, be like careful with your trust in lots of situations. I think that's true.
That's really good advice. And I think nothing is perfect. I think especially as a business owner as well, there's many ups and downs you probably go through. Would you say there's anything that you are working on at the moment, or anything that you're working to help you improve, to take you further, both in your personal life but also the business as well? Because I imagine part of Liv is now part of Girls in Marketing. So,
No, definitely. I think 100% time management, like just really understanding now what is my role in the business, but equally, how do I manage my time? How do I give enough time to certain team members who might need it? How do I give enough time to certain projects that I'm working on? Just general time management, but not in the sense where it's like, 2 p.m. till 4 p.m. I'm doing this sort of thing. It's like actually holistically, what is the view of the business and how do I help people to do their jobs better, and just kind of have that as an all-rounded view rather than just like my time is my time. Because as a business owner, as an employer, your time isn't often always your time. And there's this phrase like firefighting in business, where it's kind of doing things that you never put on your to-do list, but stuff that just comes up in the day or in the week. And I watch a lot of stuff around business, and some of it's like a load of rubbish, genuinely. And they say, you should only spend 10% of your time firefighting. And I'm like, I spend about 90% of my time because something comes up, or someone says something, or something hasn't been done and someone needs help doing it quicker. So it's actually, okay, how do you put time in the diary to be able to firefight, not physically, I'm not fighting any real fires, but, to be able to do all of these things and actually be able to support people. And having a really solid team around me has helped to do that. But now it's about, okay, how do I manage my time effectively for them as well, to be able to support them?
It's a good tip, and one I'll probably have to go through myself at some stage as well. Thank you so much for coming into the studio. I can't believe that it's been like probably, just over 2 years since we last recorded. So maybe we should set a date to record another one in 2 years and see where you are, because I know you said you weren't planning for world domination with Girls in Marketing, but I do feel like that is probably going to be what happens, because you tend to like, I always said this ever since the moment I met you, everything you touch turns to gold, because it genuinely does. Like, you have this, if you have an idea, like you just go for it and you put on the best event, membership, like everything you've done. Like, you're a massive inspiration to me, like, and I'm very lucky to call you one of my best mates, but like she's gonna cry, we're getting emotional, but it's true. And I think what you've done in the past 2 years is amazing, and I'm excited to see what you do within the next 2 years.
Likewise.
But you'll know what we finish our podcast with. Every single question is the exact same. If you were to look back and look at 20-year-old Liv in the eye and give her just one piece of advice, can be about personal life or business, what would you say to her?
I feel like take more risks, because I am more of a risk taker now. I obviously described myself earlier on as a calculated risk taker, but I think 20-year-old Liv wasn't. I was in university. I was very much like settled on what I was doing. And I think I wasn't really a risk taker, maybe somewhat, because I feel like it's embedded a little bit within you to take risks or to not. But I genuinely feel like take more risks, do more things that scare you, and be willing to put yourself outside your comfort zone.
I love that.
That's amazing. That's a great point to kind of end the podcast on. Thank you so much for joining us, Liv. Popping around the corner for a little, what feels like a little catch up between you guys.
Thanks for coming in, Liv. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to you guys for listening. A big thank you to you, yes you, for tuning into this episode of the Talk 20s podcast.
We hope it inspired you in some way and popped a little pep in your step for this week.
Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend. It means a lot to us to have your support.
We also love hearing your stories and suggestions. You can reach out to us on all socials by searching at Talk 20s.
Lastly, before we go, our website, talk20s.com, is the hub for all things 20-somethings. Go check it out, my people.
Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.